The biggest privilege white people have is not institutional access. Arguably, the biggest privilege that white people have is not having to be hyper aware of their identity at all times. But keep in mind, I said hyper aware. That doesn't mean that the white man doesn't know he's a white man and the white woman doesn't know she's a white woman. What it means is that they don't choose to or have to compartmentalize their identities constantly for survival or social proof. In the African community, in the black community, we are too aware of our identities as a result of our circumstances under colonialism, imperialism, and racism in this world. We spend most of our lives playing these word games about who's really black, who's light-skinned, who's dark-skinned, who's brown-skinned, who's really African, who's African-American, who's ADOS, who's South African, who's really African, who's East African. We waste our time and our talent playing these identity politics when the real politics we need to be playing is the politics of material acquisition in international relations. In no way should we deny our experiences under colorism, under texturism, under tribalism. But if we spend our lifetimes, our efforts, our talents, and our energy focused towards these things, then what room do we have? What space do we have to acquire material conditions for our community? The light skins got stories, the brown skins got stories, the dark skins got stories, the African Americans got stories, the Caribbean Africans got stories, the immigrants got stories, the continental Africans got stories, the European Africans got stories. And again, I will never deny any of our experiences. But we tell these stories and we obsess over these stories and we build our identity upon these stories, but we never tell the story of our material conditions. If we're not addressing our stories under imperialism, I think the other stuff can wait. If we're not addressing our stories under the European patriarchy, I think the other stuff can wait. If we're not addressing our stories under colonialism, I think the other stuff can wait. If we're not addressing our stories under the prison industrial complex, under the healthcare system that disproportionately affects our women, I think the other stuff can wait. Which again, going back to the point of my video, is the reason why white people are ahead in this country. Because while they have the privilege to focus on their material conditions, you're worried about, do people like you or not? How beautiful are you to the beauty standard?
Guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about white privilege. Yeah, that thing that people swear doesn't exist because they work hard to, right? Let's clear this up once and for all. White privilege isn't about what white people gain. It's about what black people lose, right? It's about not worrying when you get pulled over. It's about not being followed in a store, right? It's about safety, assumptions, and opportunity. Let's watch some clips and we're back to talk about it. Credit goes to all original creators. This is commentary, just for educational purposes. Yeah, let's watch and we'll be back.
So I'm out shopping with my family earlier, right? And this white woman comes up to me and was like, "Oh my God, I love your hair. Like, I rarely see dreads. Like, is there any way I can touch it?" And I go, "Absolutely not. Like, no." And then this is where it takes a turn. She goes, "You know what? I don't care. I don't want to touch it anyway." And here's where the story gets crazy. She goes, "The only reason blacks have dreads is because they want straight hair like white people." Bitch, what? And then she proceeds to reach out and attempt to touch my hair. But my wife, who was standing right next to me, grabs her arm. And in true white woman fashion, she cries out like she's being assaulted and attacked. Lucky for us, there were people in the store who saw what was going on and kicked the lady out. But I'm like, the fucking white privilege in this world is absolutely fucking crazy. If this was under any other circumstances and no one saw it, I somehow would have been the one accused of this. And this is the fucking world we live in.
This might be a hot take, but when we say white privilege, we don't mean that your life is easy. White privilege simply means that the color of your skin doesn't make your life harder. For instance, if you are someone who has darker skin, there are systemic issues that prevent you from achieving success in many instances. If you want to go to an elite university or get a high-paying job, statistically, you are less likely to get the position as a white person, even having the exact same experience. And if a person of color does get the position, they are then told that the only reason they did was because of DEI or affirmative action. People with darker skin are more likely to be arrested, incarcerated for long periods of time, and wrongfully convicted. And they're more likely to live in poverty because of unfair housing practices and other methods of discrimination. If you truly understand what white privilege is, there is no reason to get offended when someone brings up this topic because they aren't saying anything about you or your character. What this term means is that in such a diverse society, your skin color is not a barrier to success. And you are set up for success much better than any person of color because America was built on white supremacy to favor white people.
The thing about white privilege, and I'm going to touch your hand when I say this, so hold my hand, is that the struggles and trauma you went through suck. but they didn't happen because you were white. And that's the thing. I will go through things in every space I occupy on every continent in every country that you won't understand because I look like this and you look like that. Example, we both might be broke by the end of the day, but when you popped out the womb, your mother's first thought was not, what is a racially ambiguous, gender ambiguous name I can give you that will give you a leg up in life? Your mom just gave you a name. And I can explain to you all of the well-researched, well-backed up ways that privilege has colored your life in a way that you are yet to understand. But before you listen to me, you will decide that you hate me because that is easier. And that is a privilege that you get to have. You get to maneuver the world with your anger and hate based on your trauma without ever thinking about the nuances, much less living them. And that is the privilege that you choose to not understand.
White people, the white people that don't believe in white privilege. Let me tell you something. White privilege is a real fucking thing. And I know you can't comprehend it or understand it and all that bullshit. My hair crazy. Anyway, let me explain it to you this way, white people, and maybe you'll understand it. Coming from a white person, maybe you will understand the white privilege that I'm telling you. I've never in my life been thankful that my boys are white. Ever. Never been thankful that they were white. But now, with the shit that's going on in this goddamn world, I'm thankful that my children are white. That's one less worry I have to worry about my children. There's your white privilege. I don't have to worry about my child when he goes out that fucking door that he's going to be harassed by ICE or harassed by the police. I don't have to worry about that. That right there is white privilege. And I've never been thankful that my children, especially my boys, are white. Understand that? And I hate to say it like that, but that's what white privilege is. And if that's the way I gotta say it and the way to get it through your fucking head, that y'all don't realize how thankful you should be that you're goddamn white. I'm embarrassed to be white because of what we fucking do. That's for damn sure. But I'm also thankful because it's one less worry that I have to worry about for my children. Does that not register with you that these people that are brown, that are black, that are from different countries, they have that extra worry because of that? That's what white privilege is. It's being white, not having to worry about that stuff that comes with being from another country or brown or black. That's what white privilege is. Having not to worry, that one less worry off of you, because it's a big worry, especially right now. Like I said, I've never been thankful that my children are white until now. I've never been thankful to be white until now because it's one less worry.
The ultimate white privilege is always going to be ignorance. As long as white people have the ability to disengage with a conversation and it's not that deep their way out of any conversation when they feel like they're being emotionally triggered or discomforted or feel cognitive dissonance any type of way, that's going to be the ultimate privilege. White people are always going to have the ability to move through this world without really engaging in tough conversations about system that we lived in because the topic of white supremacy is so emotionally charged with them because of the concept of whiteness. As long as they feel connected to the concept of whiteness, any criticism about the concept is going to bring them discomfort. So immediately it's going to become emotionally charged for them and they're not going to want to engage in conversation. And that in itself is a privilege. But it's also the ultimate form of psychological subjugation because no one is more subjugated under white supremacy than white people. Right? Your concept of being white is going to always tie you to the system. So you're never going to be able to fathom a world in which you weren't white. So while people of color, especially black people and indigenous people, born a life that existed before white supremacy, you will never be able to do that because you don't remember what you were before you were white. Black people and indigenous people, on the other hand, are always thinking about a world in which their labor wasn't commodified, where they grew their own food, where shelter was free, where water was free. They could just go outside and hunt for animal products. Because of colonization and slavery, people of color are always going to have a homing beacon in history where life existed before white supremacy. For them, because they're still people of color. But because you identify with whiteness, that concept might not exist for you. The system is all you know. All you know is working for money. All you know is paying for water. All you know is paying for electricity. All you know is paying for land. When people of color have lived off the land for thousands of years. So there's always going to be this concept of a better life to people of color. That does not exist for white people. And that is the ultimate subjugation. You're the ultimate subjugated people under white supremacy. It is your psychology, your programming that keeps you in the life that we live. That is why, even though the world that we lived in is so fucked up, white people fear changing it because they do not know a life outside of it. In their minds, this is as good as it gets. But people of color know that's not true. We remember a time where we built communities, where we grew food together, where we helped out our neighbor. Where everything was essentially free, minus a little labor to get it and grow it. Not this fake system where we lived for money. Mind you, this system for most people of color has only existed for 400 years. There's always going to be a point in our mind where white supremacy did not exist. Because we are not white and we do not identify with whiteness. That is not something that a white person can say. So for a white person, the ultimate privilege is always going to be identification with white supremacy itself. As long as you have the privilege of being ignorant and able to not engage with the conversation because of your emotional discomfort, you're always going to find a way to make the best out of this situation. That is the ultimate privilege. While black people and people of color mourn a life that we could have lived, white people not came and subjugated us under their system, all white people think about is how to achieve and grow within inside the system of capitalism, within inside the system of patriarchy and white supremacy. All of your goals revolve around improving that system instead of dismantling it. We are not even looking at history and reality from the same standpoint, and that's because you identify as white. The system is literally embedded inside of your identity. That is the ultimate privilege. It's ignorance. Not being able to contextualize the idea from outside of yourself. That is a privilege. Also, the ultimate subjugation.
So let me get this right. This little girl and her friends got caught stealing in a mall, and then she goes and puts her hands on somebody before going down the escalator, and everyone just laughs and makes memes out of her. And at the same time, these 3 little boys got caught stealing in a store and got locked in it before they started just damaging property, and they're automatically vilified more? Y'all called her cute. Y'all called her a diva. Y'all said this was funny as shit, and she has so much confidence. Can you imagine what the comments look like under this video, though? I could tell you, but I'd probably get banned. Y'all tell me what the fuck that looks like. Respectfully, y'all tell me what that looks like. And honestly, I'm even more low-key disappointed seeing black people perpetuate this shit too. Because y'all absolutely are. Absolutely are. I'm seeing black women call her a diva. And I'm seeing black folks react to this like, oh, this is fatherless behavior. Oh, I blame single mothers. What the fuck? What the fuck are we doing right now? Like, dead ass.
The problem is people hear privilege and think it means that someone just had it easy, right? But it's not about that. It's about the things that you don't have to think about. You know, the invisible advantages that come, you know, from just looking like the default, right? And it doesn't mean guilt. It just means awareness, because when you know better, you do better. And, you know, some white folks are starting to educate others. And honestly, that is growth, right? That is how progress starts, right? Conversation and not denial, right? But still, a lot of people pretend not to see because it's uncomfortable. If privilege means never having to think about privilege, then that is the point, right? Anyways, that's it for today's commentary. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep having these important conversations because understanding is the first step to change. Thank you so much for tapping in when you saw this. Credit goes to all original creators, and this is just for education and commentary purposes. Thank you so much for your support this far. I really appreciate it. And as usual, I'll see you on my next one.